Hi, I'm Carmen, and this is the Miscellaneous Vegan, where I share a little R&R recipes and reviews. And today we're going to be making this chickpea tuna salad. So you can make this salad to put it in a wrap or as a sandwich. So stay tuned. If you haven't done so yet, make sure you like and subscribe for recipes and reviews in New York City and around the world, for Coaching Mondays and the occasional Saturday vlogs. Today is the first day of Advent, and traditionally, Advent was a season that included fasting and abstaining from meat. But the church doesn't require that anymore. But if you still do the traditional way of fasting and abstaining from meat, this chickpea tuna would be a nice addition to your diet during this Advent season. So here I'm just showing you how I peel my onions. I usually use red onions. I prefer to use red onions. It has more nutritional value than the white onion. But I'm just showing you how I mince my onions. So if you're a person that does not like onions, you can omit adding the onions. Or if you like the onion seasoning and the spice, you can add the seasoning instead of the whole onion. That's an option. But I enjoy eating raw onions in my tuna salad, in my salads, in a lot of my dishes. So I'm adding it. So here I'm just showing and sharing how I mince my red onion. So when you cut your vegetables, remember to save the excess portions that you're not going to use to cook. Because remember, I have a video on how to make your veggie broth, and that is what you want to use, is all the leftovers from all the vegetables that you have when you're cooking. So you just want to have a nice big bag, Ziploc bag, paper bag, something that you can store these leftover vegetables and put them in your freezer. And when the bag is large enough, then you can make, you see, I'm going to store that in a bag and put it in the freezer where I can do my vegetable broth. So here I'm just adding about 2 to 3 tablespoons of the chopped onions to the container where I'm going to store my chickpea salad. Why am I doing that? Because I do not like to wash dishes. So I'm trying to minimize the amount of dishes. I can put it in a bowl, a mixing bowl, and do all that jazz, but I don't want to do that. So here I am storing the rest of the onions in a reusable bag. Every little piece of the onions goes in the bag, and then it's going to be stored in the freezer. So why do I do that? Because it saves me time in the future. So you see, I have some fresh onions. I just take it out the freezer, let it thaw out, and then I can use it for another chickpea salad or another recipe. So let's move on. So here I'm using canned chickpeas. So remember, if you're doing a detox, you want to use your fresh garbanzo beans. Make them fresh. I have a video on how to make that. I will link it above. But at this point, I didn't have any, and I was hungry, and I wasn't going to drive all the way to Yonkers from Manhattan to get fresh garbanzo beans. So that's where planning comes into play when you're a vegan, right? But I had this as an option. And here we have the vegan mayo. This is the one I like to use that's made with avocado oil. This is a chipotle mayo. It's optional, but I use that later on. But just use a regular vegan mayo, a nice clean vegan mayo. If you know how to make your own mayo at home, that's even better. I do not. I've tried to, but it just wasn't coming out the right consistency. I am really trying to perfect the recipe on how to make my own vegan mayo. So until then, I will be using this brand. So I use about 2 tablespoons of the vegan mayo. And I just realized that I was supposed to mash my chickpeas in the container before I put the mayo, but it's okay. So now we're going to add a teaspoon of turmeric. Turmeric gives it the color and all the nutritional benefits that turmeric comes with. And an option is to add a little bit of sazon goya. It is not mandatory, but I like the flavor that it gives it, just a little bit. And then your black peppercorn. I like the black peppercorn versus black pepper because there is a difference. There is a difference in flavor, and that is why I choose to do that. And that's it. Then we're going to just take our time to mash the chickpeas. So you want to make sure that you mash the chickpeas where you get the consistency kind of mashed potatoes. Unless you like to eat the chickpeas like that, you don't have to mash everything. You can mash it until the consistency that you like. And while you're mashing it, it's gonna all the seasonings and the mayo, everything's gonna mix in very well as you see here in this video. So some people at this point will add some nori sheets. That's an option. You want to also taste your food here as well, because you might want to add a little bit of salt or everything seasoning. That is also an option. Okay, and this is the nori sheet that I do have at home, but I didn't add it to this recipe. I just have it for future recipes. I really never add it to my chickpea tuna salad because I don't need to. I feel like this recipe as is perfect for my taste buds. So I did taste my food and I felt like I needed to add just a little bit of salt. So you want to add pink Himalayan salt or Celtic salt. They both have very good benefits for your body. So just a little bit will go a long way. And that is it. You see, that's all I added. And there you have it, you guys. Your chickpea tuna salad that you can add to every dish or any dish. And always remember, you guys, to be real and not perfect. And stay tuned because I'm going to show you how to use this chickpea in some recipes. So you're going to need a plate, obviously, and your tortillas. You want to make sure that your tortillas is a chickpea, or if you don't have, use what you have. Okay, and then you're going to spread some chipotle mayo. This is optional. You do not have to add the chipotle mayo. You can add regular mayo, or you don't have to add anything at all. It's just I use it for the flavor and also to hold the lettuce that I'm about to add. If you're trying to lose weight, make sure you measure out the amount of mayo that you will use or don't use. Then you won't have to measure anything. And here I'm adding the lettuce that I have in my refrigerator. I currently had, what is this, dinosaur kale. And I usually always have dinosaur kale or romaine lettuce or both in my fridge. Always. That is a staple in my refrigerator. So that is the amount that I'm using. And then you want to put like a tablespoon of what you just made, the chickpea salad. So the reason I'm using a tablespoon in this is because I have the mini tortillas. So if you have the burrito size, you would add more. So eventually I will be making more than one of these burritos. And then here I'm adding some pickles that I got from the farmer's market. So remember, you want to buy some things from the farmer's market. You don't want to buy everything from the supermarket, especially the Dirty Dozen. That is also in my website. I will link it below. So here I am adding the pickles. And then I'm going to top it off with a little bit of everything seasoned. I didn't do that in this video, but sometimes I do that. So I'm just going to wrap it the best that I can. I'm not a professional in this. I feel like the people that know how to make this wrap are like geniuses, but it's just really difficult for me to wrap a burrito for some reason. It never comes out the way that, Chipotle does it or any other, or just salads when you get a wrap. But here it is. This is your chickpea salad tuna wrap. And it's really delicious. You can sprinkle everything seasoning on that if you want to, but honestly, it's good the way it is. And so I eventually do make 1, 2 to 3 of these. You can put it on homemade bread, as I did here, and just spread it on top with some everything seasoning. You can make it like this basic, or you can put some lettuce on it, lay it on top of the lettuce with some pickles and some everything seasoning, or you can make a wrap. So you have many options, or in addition, you can make a sandwich. So there's so many ways for you to dress this chickpea quote-unquote tuna salad. Honestly, my favorite way to have it is in a wrap or just like this, plain, with a little bit of everything seasoning, a little bit of chipotle mayo at the bottom. That's like my favorite way of having my
chickpea salad.